Jai Hind and good morning, distinguished guests, faculty, and students, and a very warm welcome to the inaugural event of PIERA, the India Policy and Economy Research Club at Arizona State University. I am Shiksha Mishra, an undergrad sophomore coming from Lucknow, India, pursuing a double major in Bachelor's of Science in Economics and Marketing here at the W.P. Carey School of Business at the Arizona State University. We are truly delighted to have you all here as we mark the beginning of an exciting new chapter. We are proud to share this vision with you and embark on a journey of shaping the future together, while unveiling the work that has been taking place behind the scenes over the course of the past few months. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor to welcome our distinguished guests this morning. These visionary leaders have left an indelible mark across government, diplomacy, global industry, and academia. Please join me in welcoming them with the respect and admiration they truly, truly deserve. We begin with a leader whose work in education, development, and empowerment has left a lasting impact on the lives of millions. Please welcome former Cabinet Minister, Government of India, Sushri Smriti Irani ji. Next, we are honored to have with us a pioneer in aerospace and strategic defense, whose global vision continues to shape international cooperation. Please welcome the Chief Executive of General Atomics Corporation, Dr. Vivek Lall. And finally, we are privileged to be in the presence of an academic visionary whose leadership has redefined higher education and innovation, the president of Arizona State University and a luminary for the entire higher education of US through his NAMU models, Dr. Michael Crow, who will be joining us shortly. And unfortunately, Dr. Shrikar Reddy, Consulate General, San Francisco, will not be able to join us due to an official work commitment at the station, but he sends his best wishes and we thank him for that. To begin today's program, we invoke the blessings of Bhagwan Ganesh, the remover of obstacles and harbinger of wisdom. In our culture, it is customary to start auspicious occasions with Ganesh Ji's Vandana, during which people ground themselves, calm their senses, reflect on their thoughts, and all of these leads to better decision makings and increased chances of success. The Ganesh Vandana would be performed by Shriyans and Nandini from ASU's Sur Devil, and the songs are composed by Vivek Bhavsar. Please join us in welcoming the performance as they present this divine invocation.
शरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि चतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुखाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदैवताय गुरुकुलस्थायिने गुरुविक्रमाय गुह्यप्रवराय गुणवे गुणगुरवे गुरुदैत्यदलक्षेत्रे गुरुधर्म सदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्र परित्रात्रे गुरुपाखण्ड खण्डकाय गीतसाराय गीततत्त्वाय गीतगोत्राय धीमहि गूढगुल्फाय गन्धमत्ताय भोजयप्रदाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि
Thank you, ASU Soul Devils, for this melodious performance. We truly felt the divine presence in the room. As we head towards the launch ceremony, I would like to invite Mudit Lal, the first officer of PIERA, to lead us into the most awaited moment of today's gathering. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Okay, all right. Well, good morning, everyone. The truth is, I was so busy with the event that I couldn't prepare a script for myself. But that being said, the launch ceremony, one of the questions that was brought up to us was that, didn't you have the club like since last year and you're having a launch ceremony right now? And the thought was, yes, we've had the club, but we weren't achieving what we wanted to do with this club. And this launch ceremony establishes that we are here and we are serious about this. So without any further ado, I'd like the remote to be presented. Yeah? Okay, so we'll do it the way we do it back at home, and we'll have a remote to press, and that will be the launch ceremony. Awesome. Great. We started with extra 5 seconds of fireworks. Awesome. So the next question comes up is that what does the launch ceremony actually mean? Well, to put it simply, the button that we pressed here takes our website live. So the students that are present here, and they can just hop onto the website and start signing up to be a part of PIERA. For the faculty that is involved here, we'll cover more on how to get engaged in the keynote. So without any further ado, we're going to move ahead. And I would like to invite Dr. Kaushik Thupalli. He holds a PhD in electrical engineering and is currently working as a machine learning scientist and researcher at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. He is a proud Sun Devil himself who continues to give back to the institution by sitting on this esteemed advisory panel. Kaushik ji, please lead the oath-taking ceremony and induct the core members.
Namaskar, everyone. I'm extremely delighted about this opportunity, and I'm extremely proud of what these students have put up today. I would like to proudly invite all the core members of this organization to be on the stage to just do a simple oath-taking ceremony. I pledge to pursue knowledge with humility and take actions in consonance with the eternal principles of the universe, Dharma. I will engage in policy activities that will help realize a developed nation state, Desha. I commit to a lifelong research that is both rigorous and inclusive in the spirit of selfless service, realizing the ultimate truth and producing learning outcomes for the betterment of all humanity, the Vishwa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaushik Thopalli. Your guidance and support will be invaluable as we grow, collaborate, and bring PIERA's vision to life. We now arrive at a truly cherished moment in today's proceedings, the felicitation of our esteemed guests. As we honor them, we also celebrate the ideals they embody: excellence, innovation, and a steadfast commitment to shaping a brighter future through knowledge and collaboration. With great pride and heartfelt gratitude, we would like to present our dear guests with this token of respect in appreciation of their presence, support, and the inspiration that they bring to PIERA. To felicitate Sushri Smriti Irani ji, I would like to briefly share a few words about her remarkable journey, which is nothing short of inspirational. Sushri Smriti Irani ji is an inspiring leader whose path reflects dedication, impact, and exemplary public service. Initially gaining nationwide fame as an iconic television personality, Smriti Irani ji transitioned almost seamlessly into public life, contributing significantly as a goodwill ambassador for WHO, highlighting her lifelong commitment to social causes. In her political career, she made history as India's youngest women cabinet minister, overseeing transformative initiatives such as Swayam online education platform, STEM education for young women, and strategic collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, advancing healthcare and digital literacy. As Minister of Textiles, she has passionately promoted India's rich handloom heritage through the impactful #IWearHandloom campaign, which is one of my favorites too. Later, as Minister of Women and Child Development, her leadership led to groundbreaking advancements in women's empowerment, nutrition, and child welfare. Globally, she founded the Alliance for Global Good, Gender Equity and Equality during India's G20 presidency, cementing her position as a powerful advocate for inclusive education, gender equity, and innovative governance. Ma'am, we are deeply honored by your presence today. To present the token of gratitude, I now invite Ms. Kamla Vancha, the Executive Director of Technology and Innovation, Educational Outreach and Student Services, to please come forward. Please welcome Sushri Smriti Irani ji to the stage to receive the felicitation. Thank you, Smriti Irani ji, for your presence and continued support. We are deeply grateful and inspired by your vision. Now, to felicitate Dr. Vivek Lall, I would like to briefly share a few words about his remarkable journey. Dr. Vivek Lall, Chief Executive of General Atomics Global Corporation, is an internationally respected leader whose expertise spans across aerospace innovation, defense system, and strategic diplomacy, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. With a PhD in aerospace engineering, a master's in aeronautical engineering, and an MBA, Dr. Lall uniquely blends technical brilliance with strategic global insight. During his distinguished career at Boeing, he was instrumental in landmark defense agreements, notably the procurement of the C-17 Globemaster aircraft, significantly enhancing Indo-US defense cooperation. Most recently, under his visionary leadership, General Atomics secured approval from the US government for a $5 billion landmark agreement to supply India with 31 MQ-9B Sky Guardian drones, further solidifying strategic relationship between the two great democracies. Recipient of prestigious honors, including the Lifetime Achievement Award presented by President Joe Biden, Dr. Lall continues to inspire innovation, international cooperation, and strategic advancement. We are truly honored by your presence here, sir. To present the token of gratitude, I now invite Mr. Holly Singh, Assistant Vice President of the International Students and Scholars Center, to please come forward. Please welcome Dr. Vivek Lall to the stage to receive the felicitation. Thank you so much, Dr. Lal, for your presence here today. To felicitate President Michael Crow, I would like to briefly share a few words about his remarkable journey. Dr. Michael Crow has transformed Arizona State University since becoming its 16th president in 2002. Under his leadership, ASU has expanded dramatically with new campuses, increased student enrollment, and significant growth in the university's endowment. Dr. Crow has positioned ASU as a global research leader. The university now excels in space sciences, advancing satellite communications and astrophysics. In medicine, ASU's interdisciplinary teams have made remarkable progress in regenerative biotechnology. Additionally, pioneering work in semiconductor technology has put ASU at the forefront of computing and artificial intelligence in the Phoenix Valley. His academic journey began with degrees in political science and environmental studies from Iowa State University, followed by a PhD in public administration from Syracuse University. Before ASU, Dr. Crow held important positions at the US Department of Energy and Columbia University, where he established the Earth Institute. Dr. Crow's achievements have earned prestigious recognitions, including being named one of the Time magazine's 10 best college presidents and receiving the American Council on Education Award. He was also the first university president on Time 100 climate list. Throughout his career, he has remained dedicated to inclusive education, cutting-edge research, and building strategic international partnerships, particularly strengthening US-India collaborations in education and technology. Please give a warm round of applause to welcome President Michael Crow. To present the token of gratitude, I now invite Dr. Ajay Bansal, the faculty advisor of PIERA, and teaching professor at the School of Computing and Augmented Intelligence to please come forward and felicitate. Thank you, President Crow, for your presence and continued support. We are deeply grateful and inspired by your vision. Now, it's time for our first officer, Mudit Lal, to take over and share the vision and thought behind PIERA and what it stands for through his keynote speech. Please welcome the first officer for PIERA, Mudit Lal.
Okay, this is the second time I don't have a script. And I wanted to make it conversational rather than just coming up on stage and vision bata do. Tell the vision, tell the mission, and your organization is ready to go. So, background story. The thought of PIERA actually existed even before I came at ASU. It was through a discussion between our advisor, Dr. Kaushik Thopali, and our principal advisor, Ashutoshji. And this thought of having a policy club at ASU always existed. And well, the universe planned, and I got into ASU when both of the advisors were graduating, and they conveyed the thought to me, and I was like, you know what? This is absolutely worth giving a shot. and so I discussed the idea with my trusted friends. I'm like, I'm going to need you to execute this, and they make a very valid question that I never asked myself, because for me, it was always there, I felt. So the question was that, about from all of these things to talk in the universe, why talk about public policy? It doesn't even have science, your universe, or robots in the name. It doesn't even sound cool. But what we fail to realize is that, the cost of this mic that I'm holding, the cost of how much would it cost to build this venue, to everything is directly affected by how policies are shaped. Nations' economies crashed just because wrong policies. Like we had India had its own economic liberation, and then it got opened up to the global market. And so these were some of the key elements, key events, and they were dictated by policy. And these ended up deciding the fate of nations and fate of millions, and in some situations even billions of people. So talking about policy is very, very important. And that's why PIERA was formed, to have this little place for discussion, where these discussions are not just kept within the room, but also actually delivering impact. And now you may ask, how are you going to sit in your college classroom and say you're delivering impact? Well, let's talk about that. And I'm going to do the uncool stuff for a bit, okay? 2010's vision and mission, because they're very, very important on how we decide, okay? And I'm going to also do I'm going to break a rule here and I'm going to read it from the slide, okay? So the vision of PIERA was to create a premier student organization, premier being a key word here, because it's important for us that we take care of every little piece that you interact with PIERA to be top-notch, from these little pre-printed name tags that you have, to the emails that you were getting, to how we publish our paper, to how our website looks. Everything is thought through, making a stand to the tag of Premier that generates actionable intelligence. Intelligence, sure, generate as much as you want, but can you actually make decisions based out of it? Are those insights? Can you really change something in the world just through that intelligence, right? Towards the formulation of policies pertaining to technology, economy, polity, and business in the context of Bharat. So when it says context of Bharat, it means policies in India, policies in the US that affect India, and Indo-US policies, all three of them. The mission, simple. Employ the best-in-class academic research methods to arrive at artifacts, research publications, editorials, and collaterals for knowledge. Make sure that the knowledge that we are coming up with reaches everyone, so that there is an awareness about it. There's a dissemination, right? Just like this, and many more events to come. And policy creation. So coming back to the point that I left before being the uncool person, how do you do policy creation? Well, there are three primary methods, three primary activities through which we want to achieve it. First of all is, most importantly, research. We have some of the best minds from across the globe here at ASU. We want them to think about what's going on in the world, break those down into what's going to happen, learn from the past, predict the future, or at least try to predict the future, and create an understanding of policies that students usually don't have. And it's not their fault, and we'll come to that in a second. Second thing, discussion. No policy is made individually. If someone is making a policy about, let's say semiconductor technology, that has to do with geopolitics, that has to do with, at what level are we with certain stages of semiconductors and whatnot. So this calls for discussions. So someone that studies geopolitics is in the discussion, someone that studies technology, someone is in the semiconductor R&D will be in that conversation. Because it's important to collect all these perspectives, converge them into this one, pristine thought that actually is so much more valuable. Now, once we have this data, once we have this knowledge, we take this up through activities. When we have seminars where we talk about what we've researched on, workshops. So how do we clear out blockades of thinkings that we're going to end up with? So workshops, and then conferences. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we plan to achieve with PIERA. Now, well, all of this is said and done. I feel for me, the most impactful thing that PIERA will ever achieve is that we'll create policy leaders. And it sounds like a very cliche term, what is a policy leader? But it's going to be many of you that are sitting in this room today. People who were interested about, learning what policies are, or didn't even knew that what policies are, but just walked in the door because they wanted to see what's going on. Why do we have such important dignitaries on the campus, right? So when you are aware of technology, or whichever industry you are in, and you understand why policy is important, when you go out there in the industry, you can participate with the government, you can participate with the company to influence policy. And when people who know what they're doing take decisions on policy, we have great outcomes, or if not, we have, economic fallouts and whatnot. So the impact of this thought of policy leaders is not going to be immediately visible. This is a 5-year, 10-year goals. As we graduate out of here, we get into these industries, we talk to people, we get at positions of where we can make decisions, and we'll create policy leaders. And this will not just affect India. This will positively affect everywhere members of PIERA go globally, right? So creating policy leaders and not being cliche at it. All right. So the roadmap is creating policy leaders, eventually getting good enough to create tools that we can actually use to empower the policy making process that we are having here at PIERA. And then eventually, once we have research, documentation, op-eds, everything that are strong enough for us to take it to the government, take it to these officials and talk to them about bringing these changes. And this is where we end up having our final and the most maximum impact. Research done by students who are involved in cutting edge, and when I say cutting edge, I do mean literally cutting edge of what we are researching here at ASU, right? These are the people that understand what's going on, and then eventually, hopefully, we have these policies implemented nationwide or maybe global-wide scale. And if this sounds exciting to you, you're welcome to be a part of PIERA. And as we said, with the launch, our website went live, and you can hop on, follow us, wherever you want, and become a member of PIERA. And as much as I feel like it's cliche to say this, but be a part of the change that you want to bring into this world. Thank you so much. Awesome. If someone told me a couple of years ago I'll be sitting here, I definitely wouldn't have imagined that. And I was told that, we got to go hard on the questions. You got to ask the best questions out there. So without any further ado, let's start it. And the first question I have is for Smriti ji here. So Smriti ji, historically, or at least in the past 100, 200 years, India's economy has depended heavily on low-tech, labor-intensive sectors due to colonial disruptions and decades of post-independence socio-Marxist policies, effectively causing India to miss the classical industrial revolution. Given this context, what policy innovations or structural reforms would you recommend to rapidly elevate India into this high-value sector such as semiconductor, aerospace, while we ensure global competitiveness and strategic autonomy?
Only the simple questions.
That's what predominantly Indian women get, all the easy ones, and always asked of Indian men. But ladies and gentlemen, I think given how nervous Mudit is, a huge round of applause for him. With the gentleman to the left of me, I'm sure his frayed nerves have gotten worse. I think I would like to re-look at the question that you've posed. When you talk about our colonial past and you talk about low tech and how our growth was, there is somewhere the presumption as though growth across the world was high tech. It is as though AI existed 200 years ago in the global north and India was starved of it. So let us look at realities as they stand today. That over 7.5 decades ago, we got our freedom. We are the only country on planet Earth that pursued the path of non-violence to gain that freedom. We gave to the world a legend called Gandhi. We are the only nation on planet Earth whose overall contribution to global economy before we were colonized was above 25%. Today, we are a nation which is the 10th largest importer in the world and the 8th largest exporter. Our global trade value is above $441 billion. But if you look at the potency of how India is to present herself now, I think the oath that all the office bearers of your club is a great reflection of what truly India is. You spoke about Dharma, Desh, and Vishwa, which for our friends who speak English is faith, country, and the world. And if you look at how global economies today are responding in a very disruptive atmosphere, at the fulcrum of it is technology. But what is the realities of the world that we live in? Close to 3 billion people on planet Earth right now are not connected to the internet. 85% of the world, which includes not only the global south but also the global north, does not own enterprise software or technology. India is the largest consumption market in the world, but 70% of our GDP is based on domestic demand. We do not depend on the world to thrive. At the same time, what is the pipeline that awaits India? In our K-12 system, we have 254 million kids as we speak in school. We have 43 million kids in higher education. And when we look at that pipeline, what is the world that we are presenting to them or preparing for them? There has been a huge conversation around technology where many around the world were told, if you learn coding, then you have the future of work in your grasp. Reality, by the end of this year, AI will learn to code everything on planet Earth without human intervention. Where does that place children, youngsters across the globe? Well, that question is as good for me as it for everybody who's in the room right now. The only reason why you will have a human intervention is somebody sitting at some desk telling one algorithm how does it play or interplay against another, one application, how does it interplay against another application, and knowing the stretch at which AI is growing, another year, even that human intervention will not be needed. So how do you place humanity and its future when technology is changing so quickly? You place it with nations like India that know how to collaborate. And we have evidenced how we collaborate for global order. When the world was hit by the pandemic, we are possibly the only country on planet Earth that not only helped develop an indigenous vaccine, we deployed it to 1.4 billion people technologically, and we shared it with 160 countries. When the pandemic hit, I had the privilege of being the textiles minister of India. At that time, whoever now can relive that moment, there was a rush to China to get PPE suits because nations across the globe had never prepared for a pandemic the size of COVID. And I still remember the cost of landing that suit in a country like India was 2,200 rupees per suit. And at that time, in 7.5 decades of our independence, we had not more than 55,000 suits for the country, all of them imported. On the last day of February, the World Health Organization came out with standards as to what are the medical outcomes if you manufacture a PPE suit. And on the 1st of March, all the borders shut down globally. India had no machinery, India had no raw material, and we were in line to buy some from China. And that's when Indians came together, academia, industry, ministry, without a penny spent from the treasury. Between March and May, we created 1,100 companies. By June, we were the second largest exporters in the world. We created over $1 billion worth of indigenous industry without a penny from the treasury, all because well-meaning Indians got together. We drove the price from 2,200 rupees. We drove the price from 2,200 rupees to 100 rupees. So what is the future of the world? If apart from the fulcrum of technology, you look at greater global good, well, then that future has a great humane response from a country called India.
I expected amazing responses, but wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. I had an even follow-up question, but you answered it as well. So
maybe it's not me, it's just the sneakers I'm wearing.
okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And so, Dr. Lall, you're up next. So, space at some point used to be global commons. India, countries used to launch their spacecrafts and shuttles and satellites and everything, but it's increasingly becoming, a domain for strategic dominance. And of course, with the entire Cold War start that we had, Sputnik and America following the suit, and so as space becomes a more bigger of a domain as for strategic dominance, And with more and more spending for defense, AI-driven surveillance, and a lot of growing military interest, are we witnessing a shift from viewing space as a global commons to treating it as a battleground for superpowers?
Thank you for the question, and thanks to you and the club for inviting me here, and especially great to see the faculty and students turning up. And a complete honor and privilege to be sharing this dais with Smriti Irani ji. Really a global icon and such deep knowledge in so many fields. So it's a hard act to follow to even answer this question that you posed. But I will say that technology generally gets developed in multiple spheres, both militarily and also from an economic standpoint. So there are a lot of dual-use technologies. And the pace of technology development is very fast. So within 6 months, you'll have words and terms and that we're not talking about today. As was mentioned, artificial intelligence has been here for decades, right? We're only now talking about it to the extent we are in every aspect. So very much in space, in space, for example, you go get a CAT scan done, an MRI scan done, you very seldom think of that as related to space. But a lot of these technologies emanate from space exploration and a lot of scientific developments in space. And so the question is often asked, what is the use of going to space and doing all this exploration? It actually affects the common person on the ground because technologies emanate. As you know, the internet came out from a Department of Defense endeavor. So technology, as you are going to the bleeding edge of technologies and doing R&D, you come up with applications that could be military, of course, but can serve the common person as well. And that's what we're seeing in space. From space manufacturing to space debris collection, to communications. All the communications on planet Earth are because of the satellites up there. To natural disaster monitoring, to understanding how we map any country's energy resources, mineral resources. So space is very integral. And it is a real privilege and honor to see how much India has done in this field and is actually leading the world. Because it's not only about technology, but at what price point can you do it? So India has been able to put craft on the moon at a budget less than what it takes Hollywood to actually make a movie on it. So this is the kind of collaboration, therefore, I see between US and India, not only from a technology standpoint in space, but also from doing it at a price point that makes sense. So I think space, of course, has both military and commercial applications, but I think in general it helps mankind.
Interesting. So I think I completely agree with you on that, and that shift that we are looking at is going to end up helping us back on Earth. And I think that is what we've seen with many military technologies that have been developed over the past multiple centuries. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Crow, before I ask the question, I love how you're donning the shirt. ASU Gold, of course. Okay. So I've had the chance to read multiple of your articles because I'm in your class. And I was like, if I come with surface level questions to Dr. Crow, not going to be worth it. So I have a hot take. Okay, I think you were the OG Doge that we have today. So hear me out. In 2011, you published the article "Time to Rethink the NIH." Right, it is something we studied in class. And you dismantled this inertia of legacy institutions and you proposed a full-scale reimagination of the NIH, a new NIH, that is not organized around diseases, but around systems, outcomes, and transformation. Do you still feel institutions like NIH and many other bigger institutions, are they beyond incremental reform? Do they need like a complete, reapproach to them? And to add on to that, most importantly, how would you execute something that is disruptive without breaking the connected systems that work with it, or undermining the sub-organizations that are working within that established structure?
Yeah, so let me take on that question. The NIH is the National Institutes of Health, which is a $50 billion a year, plus or minus, mostly minus today. You're supposed to laugh at that. Agency that's focusing on doing fundamental research and other kinds of things that produce scientific knowledge from which better health outcomes might be realized. I want to integrate both of the previous questions and answers into the notion I think that we heard on the history of India, which I think is fabulous and accurate, and that is, why are we doing all of this? So if we're doing science for the sake of just doing science so that we can somehow understand the molecular wonders of the universe and the ultimate genetic formation of cancer and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that at someday we can then have this fabulous tool that can take on cancer and quote unquote cure cancer, but it costs so much that no one can use it, or that only a few people can use it, so that we end up in a world like the science fiction movie Elysium, if you ever saw that, which is the Roman manifestation of heaven, when humans become so smart that the rich humans all live in an unbelievable space station orbiting the Earth that's 500 miles across, and they have their mansions there, and every day they go to this machine in which their entire body is scanned, in which any cell alteration that might cause some disease in them can be identified, and that everyone else on planet Earth is left in the drudgery of producing the assets and the minerals and the tools by which those space stations can be maintained. Why do we exist? And so one of the things that I have been really focused on for many years as an architect and designer of a new kind of university, what we call ourselves the New American University, which has many of the kinds of principles that have evolved in India in the last 75 years, which is that it's about the people and their lives, it's about their success, it's about finding ways in which everyone can be moving forward rather than just a few people can be moving forward, which was really one of the core principles of the massive Indian democracy. There's no way we can get there with the intellectual designs that we have of the great science agencies like NIH or NSF or others, or the great universities that exist in the United States and elsewhere with the same design, because as we know from Albert Einstein, the same design just produces the same results. All you can do with the same design is optimize the results. You can't get different results. You can optimize them, you can make them more efficient. So here in the United States, we live in a country in which we have the following circumstance. The healthcare in the United States for the 340 million people that live here, plus or minus, is more than 2 times as expensive per person as any other country on the planet. And of the 30 leading industrial countries, we're not in the top 25 in terms of outcomes. That's like an unbelievable, shocking thing. We're wasting 10% of the economy because healthcare takes 20% of the economy, and economies that have much better health outcomes than we do are only spending 10% of their economy on healthcare. We're spending 20% on healthcare, and we're getting results which are not even in the top 25 of countries. And in the bottom third of family incomes in the United States, we have negative health outcomes. We have declining lifespan. Therefore, whatever system that we have that has produced this great country that we're a part of, the democracy cannot stand. It cannot hold with that level of inadequate outcomes. Therefore, either we change the design of everything, the design, not of the principles on which the Republic of the United States is based, not its aspirations of its unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the ability to own property, and we've even added one since in the Declaration of Independence, it leaves it open that it's just listing a few. One is learning, should be. One is healthy pathway for your life. That should be an unalienable right, irreducible by anyone, available to anyone, all the time, always. How do you make that work? If you don't attack the design of the institutions, I mean that in a positive sense, if you don't go at the design of the institution, a person far more intelligent than me, Albert Einstein, says you won't get any different results. All you'll get is a little bit more efficiency or a little bit more effectiveness. If you really want to change things, so that article that I wrote 14 years ago, I had 2 weeks to write it at the request of the editor of Nature magazine. He said, you're the only guy around thinking about this. I was a professor at Columbia University at the time and a deputy provost there, and I need a new design. How would you design it? So the question was, just to be clear, do we need a 27th institute of the National Institutes of Health focused on disease X? I said no. We need 3 institutes at the National Institute of Health. Very simple. One focused on learning or understanding everything that we need to know to help people have better life outcomes, whatever it is, whatever science we need to know. And the place where we weren't putting enough money was on behavior, since the leading causes of death in the United States anyway are not cancer, but behaviors that lead to cancer. Behaviors that lead to cancer. We don't spend anything on that. And I talked about that. And the second institute that we have would actually focus on producing results in which everyone could benefit from the scientific results. Everyone. And the third institute, I said only 3 institutes, was could you actually lower the cost of this thing so that we could take more money that we're spending on healthcare and spend that on other areas of creativity, other areas of economic opportunity, other areas of ways to grow the economy, other ways to employ more people in productive things. And so, to your question, it's only about the design. Everything that we've done at ASU, if you look at it very carefully, from the charter to the 9 design aspirations, to the way that we've evolved the institution, is only about the design. The United States itself, as a country, is a design innovation. India as a country and the emergence of India as a democratic nation is a design alteration that, as was stated, ours was emanated through violence. That was the only means by which at the time you could overthrow the British. Mr. Gandhi came along and said, well, there's another way to do this. And so that was a design change also. And so it's only through that that anything can ultimately be achieved. And that's what people don't understand. They think more money. No, it's not about more money. They think about, tweaking this or that. No, it's only about the design. So yeah, we need to, I don't want to say so much as blow it all up, because somebody might actually do that now, but. And I'm talking to those guys also. We need fundamentally different designs.
And again, I was expecting this beautiful answer. So I was like, I must have a follow-up question for this. Now, if 14 years from now, someone was to write a similar article about ASU, pointing a gap, its bold rhetoric and the real world outcome that it is achieving right now, what would that structural complacency look like? And how are you working to make sure that this article
so
is
one of the things that
never
we've tried to do for those of you that are familiar with what we've done, and if you haven't seen our stuff, go to the New American University pages, go to the design aspirations, go to the things that we've been able to do and achieve. So the elements of that are culture change, a non-elitist university performing elite things, a university which measures itself based on who we include versus who we exclude, basically saying that if your university is built on some assumption that I'm a great university because I admit only 0.5% of the people that apply, you're actually some kind of a social joke. It's like, if that's the measure by which you measure your success, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. And then the second thing that we did after changing the culture of the institution, which means that 14 years from now, the culture will be a function of these things, is to make continuous innovation an element of the way that the university operates, which is why we have 400 learning technologies that we didn't have before, why we've built whole new ways to teach and across the full spectrum of society. And then on top of that, we decided to do away with just the normal designs. One of our design aspirations is intellectual fusion. So in our School of Earth and Space Exploration is different than our Department of Geology, from which it emerged. Our School for Human Evolution and Social Change is different than just a Department of Anthropology, from which that emerged. We did away with every single regular engineering department and created multiple grand challenge engineering schools, which then allowed us to go from producing 900 engineering graduates a year to 7,500 engineering graduates a year, with all kinds of people able to be engineers now who are not being filtered out by some notion of, oh, you're not good enough to be an engineer. Why don't you let me try first? Let me prove to you I can do it. You give me the tools that can help me to do that, and I'll bet that I can do things that other people that you're now pre-selecting from high school to be engineers, could be engineers. So to your question about 14 years in the future, if we did this right, the design is fluid. It will have gone through 3 or 4 further design changes along the way, and maybe by 14 years from now, they'll just be engaged in just the latest reconceptualization of what we need to be of what? Greater service to the people, greater service to the country, greater service to obviously all the people that are here at the university.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is that ASU has become this self-evolving organization, and which is led to the core by its charter.
So there's a term that like only 4 people in the room will really know what it means, and some of you that are linguists will imagine what it means. So the thing we had to crush was filiopietism, which is at the core of every university, adoration of tradition. And so once you get rid of that, it's wide open. And guess what might happen? Universities can go in whatever direction that they need to go in to be of greatest service, not just to be of great service to the faculty and their own self-attained goals. And some of the struggle going on in the United States right now about the role of the universities and so forth and so on, even different than the politics that's going on right now, is people want the universities to be of greater service to the people. In the United States, half the people that go to college do not graduate. That's a design flaw, a serious design flaw. So the last thing you want are a bunch of universities that look the same, smell the same, act the same, engage the same. That's the last thing that you want. What you want is agile, design adaptable institutions capable of producing better outcomes for the society.
Beautiful. I will come back to this point the point that you've just mentioned later in the panel, because that is something entire team PIERA has been very curious about. But thank you so much for the amazing answer. Okay, back to Smriti ji. Okay, I really wanted to have a little small funny write-up written whenever I mention.
Oh, you think of me as funny? Yes. Go ahead.
No, I knew that
he has no idea who he's dealing with.
No, but Dr. Crow, after listening to you speak, I need to sign up.
Okay, I'm not being
breathe.
bullied. I'm not
Yes.
being bullied. Okay, so I every time AI was mentioned, I was like, AI everywhere, and I wanted to write up a small humor, but we mentioned it before. So coming back to AI, with these global conversations, they are intensifying around data localization, privacy, and ethical governance of AI. Countries are grappling with this challenge of balancing sovereign control with the need of global collaboration. How do you view the economic and business implications of protectionist approach to data, technology, and so on and so forth, particularly when nations are going to prioritize their sovereignty over global cooperation?
You have to recognize the reality that you're living in the world of export control. So how sovereign can your control be if you don't own the enterprise? How secure can your control be if you don't own the enterprise? So as a pragmatist, I'm of the opinion that you can build an application on an enterprise. But then is the control real? Economic nationalism is another reality that you're confronted with. But if you dial back a little, what was AI supposed to be? It was to be the harbinger of equity. It was to be the harbinger of innovation. It was to be the harbinger of not disruption, but equitable distribution of resources, of capacity, of achievements, of global goals. And now there's the red flag of national security. I think post DeepSeek, a lot has changed in the world. DeepSeek, what it brought to the fore was how even irrespective of export controls, irrespective of the control over the resources as to how to build the technology, there is a country which is not democratic in nature, which still defies the world of rules and order and goes ahead and builds something and tries to be competitive. So today there are nations that are caught in the crossfire. And that is a reality you're confronted with. And when you're in the middle of a crossfire, can you truly claim ownership of something that doesn't exist in your geography? So those who presume that you will have larger control, you will then play in the minefield of, can I then make my data centers sovereign? But is that localization of data centers, control, in terms of a sovereign control over the technology? I think not. Many across the world today are white labeling technology and calling themselves innovators. Many across the world today are building on top of, let's say, open source AI code and calling themselves innovators. The harsh reality is that that resource costs not only money, but that resource, as Dr. Lall said, many of it has been a contribution of DARPA. Now let's also contextualize the economic reality. I remember when Sam Altman came to India, somebody asked him in a public audience, Sam, what do you think? Will somebody in Asia make something like OpenAI? Sam actually scoffed at them and said, not in your life. Will never happen. And 1 year later comes DeepSeek. So the old adage is never say never. But let's look at the economic reality. Today, if I look at the US media and what they report with regards to how much of loss does OpenAI bear as a company every year, that loss is $5 billion a year. Is such a quantum of loss acceptable by any sovereign which has a private entity that can house a company like OpenAI and take a hit year after year of $5 to $10 billion? Now, those are the realities that you need to contextualize when you ask such a question. I think that when I heard Dr. Crow speak about the design flaw, today with regards to technology and especially AI, that is the design flaw. That irrespective of how democratic you want to be about technology, its use, and how many people it is supposed to enthuse around the world, there is a fundamental design flaw that the technology is limited to 10% of the world in terms of ownership. And today when, let's say, you see the AI summit at France, when the vice presidents of the United States of America positioned themselves, they were talking how their technology companies should not only get taxed, but also not get heavily legislated. The conversation was not around collaboration. It was more about confrontation. So these are the realities that you deal with. And then countries that are caught in the crossfires, you're asking, would you like to be mincemeat or not? Now, that's not a fair question. I think that looking at what Dr. Crow speaks, and it was absolutely mind-boggling because this is a gentleman who talks about democratization of education. Even if you look at education around technology, you ask any educationist today of repute in the US, do you know what Anthropic will throw up the next time as a product? And they will say, no, I will know only when it comes to market. So I had the privilege of listening to the person who runs Anthropic, and he says that my next product is around AI and biopathogens. The alarming statement is that the AI surface that they will produce with regards to biopathogens cannot distinguish between a bioterrorist and a PhD in virology. And those are the realities we are dealing with. At the same time, what is the impact, let's say, of Microsoft and the quantum chip, which now comes to the surface with topology? How many people across the world know of that technology? What will be the impact of using that quantum chip, let's say, in the field of medicine? Will it reimagine in a lab existing pharmacology today and how it responds to something like cancer? Nobody knows. What do we know today? 47% of all generics that are sold in the US of A come from India, saving you $300 billion in your healthcare sector. But is there a collaboration on technology and how it can inform science better with regards to medicine? No. So we are busy building platforms so that we can respond commercially to gaps in the healthcare sector. But is the scientific community, the academic community coming together to say, okay, let the politics work out itself? Can we look at what science can work out? And I think those are the questions that are pertinent.
Thank you. And this sets me perfectly for the next question I have. And the next question is actually both for Dr. Crow and Dr. Lall. But I would love Dr. Crow to start first. So some context. In 2022, the Indian and US government, they launched ISET, Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies. ISET stands at the intersection of innovation, collaboration, and strategic foresight. I would love to discuss it in depth, since it's a diamond that a lot of people are unaware of completely. But before I get into that, and I would start by asking Dr. Crow, in your conversation at Rice University, you mentioned that academic research is an invisible hand, behind innovations like the iPhone and the defense technologies or whatever it might be. So what exactly is this metaphorical invisible hand that you keep referring to? Can you state its importance and why is it relevant in today's academia?
Yeah, that's a long and complicated question. I was in Houston a couple of weeks ago and was a part of a panel there, and someone took an answer that I gave to a question in which I took my iPhone out of my pocket and I basically said that people think that this machine is the product of the genius of Steve Jobs. It is. His genius at design integration, his genius at bringing together 12 or 15 technologies, his ability to understand that those 12 or 15 technologies that make this thing up are the product of, by my last count, 40,000 academic research papers, hundreds or low thousands of academic patents, unbelievable math theory and other ways of thinking about computation. Everything that you can imagine that comes out of academia that people just don't know. They just don't understand. They don't know how to see the invisible hand at work. And so even in Dr. Lall's earlier comments about technologies, I mean, you know this, you certainly know this, that the underpinning foundation of our understanding of nature is first to understand what we are as a creature within that nature. I kid you not. And if you can't understand that, you'll never actually understand nature. And then through what academics do, it is about understanding nature, whether it's quantum computing, where you're understanding that electrons are not in fixed orbits and they're in unpredictable movement at all times until the instant that you see it or use it, and that you can use this variability in their motion to be able to use that as a computational tool. That's just understanding nature. And the fundamental mathematicians and theorists and dreamers and physicists and others that can conceptualize that then lead to another group of academics that can then build a small quantum calculator that then leads to someone else being able to do something else and then something else and something else finally to the point when the General Atomics Corporation, when it's got some massive computational problem, says, isn't it time for us to move past this silly silicon chip? Isn't it time for us to be able to calculate at an even faster rate? No one remembers who was the math genius, maybe from an Indian village somewhere, who goes to some university, who creates some unbelievable math outcome from which all of this is derived. This is not understood. And so it's not understood that today, unlike in the past, when people just thought things up and invented them, now you don't just think something up. There was a huge thing happen. There's been 3 things happen in the last 2 years, one of which was just announced yesterday. And I'll just walk you through these very quickly. So a couple years ago, for the first time, human beings created a small sun, a small star, and for a few fractions of a second, they were able to contain the energy of that star. This is called fusion reaction. And they were able to contain that energy in a way where it used less energy than it produced for a fraction of a second, which means then we know how to build a functioning star. Okay, well, that's a big deal. That could lead to all kinds of things. And then second, just not too long ago, another group of academic scientists produced a new element that doesn't exist in nature that, oh, by the way, has thermonuclear capabilities for which there's no waste. Oh, isn't that a little thing? And then, oh, by the way, if you weren't reading the New York Times yesterday, you didn't see that using one of the advanced telescopes that the world is using, that the United States put into space, there's a small planet 120 light years away, which apparently has an atmosphere filled with chemicals measurable by us today, which are only produced by organic life forms, period. It's like an unbelievable thing. Well, who knows what all of this will ultimately do and lead to as we're going forward as a species. And so for whatever reason, this has all gone so fast and is moving so quickly and is so abstract in many ways that as we become bigger and bigger and bigger consumers of systems or AI or whatever, we have no idea where anything comes from. We don't even know that this is all derivative of our mastery of our understanding of nature and our mastery of the understanding of what we are within that nature. And so it's a big problem. It's a huge problem. We don't understand these things. We don't understand where things come from. You know where they come from. The minister knows where they come from.
So that is the invisible hand, and it's crucial, and it's unrecognized. And so Dr. Lall, my question to you then is that, a lot of technology that General Atomics, creates and ships out, it's heavily reliant on this invisible hand that exists, and it primarily, or at least significantly, comes from US research institutes, right, and universities. Could India's large STEM talent pool be roped into to play a role in sustaining innovation in the US? And on the other hand, India's own research and development ecosystem, while it's not inexpensive since it has the infrastructure of great cost and everything that is in progress, it does serve as a valuable partner in sustaining innovation. How do you see this playing a role in supporting and advancing global technological ecosystems? And how can India create its own version of the invisible hand, especially given the size of the talent pool in India and India's fairly independent geopolitical positioning?
Excellent question. Multiple choice question, and the answer is yes to all of the above. I just wanted to go back very briefly to a couple of thoughts. AI is like electricity in today's date. So when electricity was discovered, you can do whatever you want with electricity, but you can't do without electricity in today's date. That's what's going to happen with AI. Companies and countries that haven't figured out the design, as Dr. Crow said, and as Smriti ji elaborated on AI, that's just imperative. And the technology is increasing at a very rapid pace. So can you keep up with it? Can you stay ahead of it? Can you adopt it? Whether at a company or at a country level, that's going to be very much the game changer. And as Smriti ji said, it's not only about 10% of the population, it is pervasive throughout the world, right? And how that can be adopted. So that was a comment on AI, and Dr. Crow mentioned fusion. So we have a star. We have a star in San Diego. We have the National Fusion Facility of the United States, which is on our campus. So we do fusion experiments there. It's a tokamak called D3D. And again, clean, limitless energy for the world is the ultimate goal. And you know, some would say it's always 30 years away because technology is, but there are three things that have to happen. One is prove the physics. And the physics, you know, recently with Lawrence Livermore, on the inertial fusion side, there was some proof that at least the physics works.
That was the thing I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And the second piece is, can you then put fusion power on the grid so that it's good to prove the physics, but if it's not economical, no one's going to use it. So can you put it on the grid? And then third is adoption, right? So the general word nuclear energy, nuclear power, several countries have adopted it, several countries are wary of it, so globally. But coming back to your original question of ISET, which is now in the new administration trust as between US and India in a variety of ways, that has been elaborated, whether you're talking about 6G, whether you're talking about semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, quantum sensing, all of these areas, I think US and India are at an inflection point for great collaboration, simply because of some of the things you already mentioned. The talent pool is incredible in India. We are working with 2 startups in India, where one in artificial intelligence, one in semiconductors, and they're truly operating on the global stage. In fact, the startup story of India in the last several years has been nothing short of remarkable. And I think that is such an engine of growth for India. Everyone has taken notice in the United States. In fact, some of the Indian startups have contracts directly with US Space Force before they get contracts from anywhere else. And so that shows the level of accomplishment. And I think a lot of students are in the audience. There used to be a time when students would aspire to, get a job after they finish in some large corporation. No longer. They want to push the levels of science and technology, start their own businesses, tap into the global talent pool. And that's what Dr. Crow was mentioning. Just look at the design all by itself in a different light and keep innovating. I think, therefore, that invisible hand that you talk about, I think of all the nations in the world, India is at the pinnacle of where all this can really explode on the global scene. And jointly, I think, and gone are the days where tech transfer has to be from the United States to India. There's a lot of technology in India that can be adopted here. So.
And I think what I also hear is that the students that come here to study don't necessarily have to stick to the US to be on the cutting edge of research or technology or whatever. It is happening in India as well. So if they are interested, India is a place that they can start considering now. And I think that it's been like that for a while, but it's just that most of us weren't aware about it. Okay, thank you so much. Great learning why ASU is so important and why other universities are important again and again. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna turn up the heat on the questions a little bit.
Turn up the heat?
And
go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Crow, what do you have to say about, and I place this question because I stand at a position that where my friends, where people from my families who've come to India are affected by it, right? What do you have to say about, the sudden instances of this disproportionate response that is happening by the be it Department of Homeland Security or be ICE or, towards international students, the service of students is being cancelled for something as civil violations, speeding and whatnot. What might be the reason for such actions? And also quoting from 2023-2024 stats, there has been a significant drop in students choosing to come to US or Canada with an F1 visa, especially for Indian students going to the US, dropping by like 34%. So where are we heading with this? And
yeah, so I will comment on that. And I probably won't leave anything out. So there's over 1 million international students studying in the United States. It is a primo deluxo destination for kids from all over the world that want to come here and have a chance to study. And it turns out that the United States goes through these periodic reassessments of its immigration policies, some of which have been brutal in the past, some of which have been flawed in every possible way, some of which have been or unconstitutional, like the internment of Americans of Japanese descent during World War II, which was completely illegal, unconstitutional, and a horrific a stain on the history of the United States. And so we have this thing from time to time when there is fear in the air, not about a specific country or a specific place, but about things that are not quote-unquote American, when America is a place in which indigenous peoples were here, and then everyone else is an immigrant. I mean, everyone else is an immigrant to this place because that's the way the place evolved. And so, personally, I don't see that changing. We're just in the latest momentary moment where we have to figure out how to, run it maybe a little bit better and have a tighter system and so forth. I mean, to students, Mr. Singh is here, who manages our international student affairs. Believe me, there's many more students in India who want to come to study in the United States if they could only get a visa more quickly. And so there's as many problems relative to administrative processing as there are relative to broader politics. And so what I say to people is that, if you're legally present in the United States and you're on track and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's okay. If you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, or you're not here legally, well, it's less okay. And so I'm not trying to minimize anything that's going on, but there's no fundamental shift in the United States being an open country. Just look at the numbers. It is beyond belief. And if someone wants to mess with that, then that'll be a loss for everyone. It'll be a loss for the students that would have come here, for their home countries, for the United States. It just would be a loss. I mean, we're a better planet, we're a better species by working together, studying together, building economic opportunity together, advancing the world. I keep saying to everyone, that we live on a still relatively poor, isolated planet in the corner of the present galaxy that we're in. And wouldn't it be great if we could find a way where there, wasn't any more poverty on this planet, and we had evolved to a point where we could, each of us individually as humans, achieve whatever it was that we wanted to achieve. We will not be able to do that in isolated locations where we're not working with each other. It won't be possible. And so this notion of how do we make this work, we make this work by finding ways to work together, solve problems together, teach together, educate together, dream together. All those things happen together, and that has been our net history. That will be our net future.
As someone who thinks about this as well, I feel more, I'd say, calm. Not from the event, but like just from the certain environment right here. Okay, perfect. I have so many beautiful questions here that I really wanted to talk about. But your schedule, Dr. Kru. And I would, and I'm going to test my limits here, and I'm going to ask more questions. Let's see. I'll pick a favorite one.
He's what? He's lost the sequence. And we may be losing the clock at some point also.
It's called doing it on the fly. Okay. Smriti ji, quickly, then back to Dr. Crow, and then we'll do our closing question, because I really want to address this one question that we have here. So, Smriti ji, since January 2025, the H-1B policy in the US, it got updated. It enabled international entrepreneurs, including Indian students, to self-sponsor their ventures. What strategic actions can universities and policymakers take for the best utilization of entrepreneurial zest among students? How might we cultivate a mutually beneficial startup ecosystem that not only generates high-value companies and jobs in the US, but also strengthens the innovation ties between the two countries, reflecting India's long-standing commitment to global cooperation, collaboration, and shared prosperity?
You need to first compute what is the Indian investment in the US right now across 50 states. You have $40 billion worth of investment. You have 425,960 Americans who are employed by Indian companies. And you have 29% of those companies which are invested in the field of life sciences and pharmaceuticals. 21% of them who are invested in services, which are both legal and financial. But when you talk about creating collaboration, especially in the startup ecosystem, I'll doff my hat to what Dr. Lall said about don't look at transfer of technology, transfer of opportunity from, let's say, the US to India. What is the importance of India as a center, not only of frugality, but also optimally utilizing your resources? When Dr. Crow speaks about, and you call him the OG of Doge, I don't think it's supposed to be leveraged as a slur or as a talk down. You need to recognize that as populations grow and resources get scarce, the smart countries are the ones that reallocate resources for the larger good.
Absolutely.
So today, if I look at the Indian possibilities, there are currently 1,600 GCCs in India, which employ over 1.5 million Indians in tier 2 cities and not the main cities. Now, what is the value that we generate for US companies only through that GCC segment? That is around $26 billion worth of value that we create back home in India, which includes firms like JP Morgan, for which I think the computed last value that was created out of the India GCC was around $2 billion or $2.5 billion only out of banking and financial services. So when you're looking at the startup ecosystem and enterprise, what does enterprise mean for you? As an Indian, and I will not delve into the bureaucratic entanglements of visas, given that's my government which is currently in position and in negotiations on many issues with the US government. So I will not try to muddy that water. But let me redirect your attention to what is that enterprise that you're seeking. So there may be many challenges, let's say, in the US, or challenges which may inspire solutions for global good from the US, but what is, let's say, the potential back home in India? Our healthcare sector is positioned to grow to $850 billion. Our food processing sector is positioned to grow in the next 3 years to $450 billion. If you look at only agriculture and agri-tech included, that is in the next 2-3 years scheduled to grow at $550 billion. Now, these are opportunities that not essentially only we as Indians, but as collaborators between the US and India and entrepreneurs between the US and India, we can delve into leverage for maybe larger economic benefits to both countries and our neighborhoods. So I believe that when you come to the US, do not think only from the lens of what can I do in the US so that I can be financially successful. I think you need to reimagine the design of your enterprise to say, what can I do as an entrepreneur, which can be a win-win both for US-India relations. I think that's where the answer lies for exponential growth. Otherwise, your growth will be myopic to a particular segment in a particular economy, in a particular geography.
Absolutely. And this sets me up beautifully for my question to Dr. Crow. And so I have been embedded in the ASU startup ecosystem, and I've Brent here, and I have so many people here from the ecosystem. And we have such amazing initiatives like the ASU Venture Devils, It has become a powerful launchpad for student-led ventures to, get into the real world and actually make impact. How can student organizations like PIERA partner and help expand the footprint and scope of the program globally, including India-based incubators, to enable prototyping, funding, and mentorship opportunities? Yes, please.
Why is it, I'm sorry I'm doing this, but why is it that you're presuming that all solutions, entrepreneurially or economically, will only lie in incubators and technology? Why would you not look at non-technology initiatives, collaborations, or for that matter, new generation of enterprise, which may not be technology-based? And Dr. Crow, I'm sorry for taking this piss, but
I
have
agree
an
with the
American
question.
experience to share. The PPH drape, anybody who's in medicine knows that world over, 700,000 women die at childbirth because of exponential blood loss. Now, the WHO standards for the perfect PPH drape has existed since the 1990s. The cost was a challenge because if you want to spread it, especially to nations where there is higher degree of death due to childbirth, an American establishment wanted the cost to be brought down to $1. We said yes in India last March. And in 3 months in India, we could manufacture that PPH drape for less than $1 at standards better than WHO. So when you talk about enterprise, do not only talk about technology because that limits your scope.
Yeah, so I agree with that comment and that conclusion. So it's not even about technologies. It can be about art. It can be about other ways. It can be about food. I mean, all kinds of things. And so entrepreneurship and innovation should be cutting across all areas. Now, how to take students that are here, we have over 7,000 or about 7,000 students from India that are here at ASU, and as well as over 150 other countries, give or take. And so how do we take this amalgamation moment where people are working together and doing things together and making things happen together and not allow that to stop when people go home or they go here or they go there? And that is to use, in this case, technologies which keep people connected all the time and forever. And so we have those tools, we have those means. And so what we need, to your specific question, is we need to find ways in which student groups want to take that on. And we have these technologies. The MasterCard Foundation from Kigali, Rwanda, invested over $30 million in ASU to build a lifelong teaming mechanism, a technology to keep people tied together throughout their life. And so we have tens of thousands of people in sub-Saharan Africa right now who are tied together for the rest of their life in an ongoing community of learning and working together and evolving things together. And it's not just about technology, it's using a technology which keeps people tied together. And so what we need students to just look down the road a little bit further than their job, to look down the road a little bit further than their graduation, and think about, well, how do I stay connected to all of these cool people that I've met when I was here at ASU or some other school, and how do I then leverage that relationship when we're going to be scattered across this massive planet to everyone's benefit over time? And we have the tools and the technologies to do that. What we need are students to rise up and say, take their own energy, because we can't do it, they have to do it, take their own energy and think about that as an outcome of their time here. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you so much, and noted, and we'll make sure it happens. Awesome. So in the interest of time, I'm going to really cut down everything else and just boil this question down into one-liner. Why are student organizations like PIERA important in today's context? And I'll start with Dr. Lal, Dr. Crow, and then Smriti ji, and we'll
Okay.
close it.
I think as many of the students will graduate and go on to their pursuits, I think one thing to keep in mind and why PIERA would be very relevant, you have to connect with, in my mind, 6 buckets of stakeholders. And no matter what endeavor you do, which sector you go, what you end up pursuing. The political spectrum, the bureaucratic spectrum, the academic spectrum, often forgotten about, but very important, and maybe not on org charts, but they're very much influential behind the scenes. The industry captains, the large, medium, small startups, the communications, perceptions, media, etc. It's very important. And then finally, of course, the end users of whatever message you're trying to convey. So if you keep those 6 buckets in mind, PIERA and other organizations like this can sensitize to all these stakeholder groups. So that would be the benefit of students and faculty.
Yeah, so what I would say is that we have this false hierarchy in universities. We think there's faculty, many of whom think that they're more than human. We have I haven't met any who are, and so and we have I met very smart ones, but they're still humans. And then we have students, and we think that there's a social hierarchy. It's an almost fatal design error this late in our evolution in the following sense. Students have when I went to college, I had a slide rule. I used punch cards. I did my dissertation, my PhD qualifying exams with a pen in a blue book, and so I'm an old guy. And the faculty should see themselves as knowledge navigators or knowledge synthesizers, and they should view the students, in fact, as the most powerful part of the institution. And they are. They're the most creative, the most energetic. They have the most ideas, the most ambition, the most drive. They're also the most empowered. So anybody born after 1996 because of the internet, I kid you not, someday, 500 years from now, they will be referred to as the humans that were Homo sapien nothing and Homo sapien.net. And the people born after 96 where they had access to the internet, they're Homo sapien.net. Well, if you're a Homo sapien.net, you are without limits. If we can get it right socially and get this stuff spread around, you are without limits. There should be hundreds or thousands of student groups. There should be every configuration imaginable. There should be students starting companies, running companies, doing all kinds of things. The work that you do at college, how many are students in here? Yeah, it's like a half-time job. I'm not kidding. Half-time. If you're spending more than that, you're studying too hard. What you really need to be doing, you should take that seriously. You should be working on networks and alliances and initiatives and projects and new ideas and making things happen and starting organizations and making things happen, solving problems. During COVID, ASU had a student group that won the global prize, the Global X Prize for masking technology. I think the oldest person on the group was 20. They can do anything, anything. That's what our students should be doing, and then rely on the geezers like me just to help you.
I think what PIERA means is well reflected on the panel today. There's the audacity of academia, the tenacity of technology, the perspective of policymakers, and the sagacity of students. And I think that's what you need. As long as those 4 elements can come together in one platform, inform each other, speak to each other, differ with each other, but respectfully so, but walk away and put in effort for global good, you've got a winner.
Thank you so much. And the goal was that, the students here today take back home a lot of learnings. And I'm sure if you learned something, I would like if you raise your hand. Hey, faculty also. There we go. so. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for, gracing the occasion of the launch of PIERA, and we're absolutely humbled. And thank you so much. And so we'll quickly wrap this up with the US and the Indian National Anthem, and we're done. Okay. Yes.
I now humbly request everyone present to rise and stand together as we proudly honor the national anthems of the two great nations. Anthem, please welcome the captivating voice of Aiden. This will be followed by a rousing rendition of the Indian National Anthem sung by the talented Shreyas and Nandini. Let this shared moment remind us of the bonds that connect us, the ideals we uphold, and the unity we strive for.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now please stand straight for the Indian National Anthem.
जनगण अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा
विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा
तव शुभ नामे जागे
तब शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता
जय हे
जय हे
जय हे
जय 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 हे
I now request our second officer, Siddhesh Badani, to come forward to deliver the vote of thanks.
My warm regards to Sushri Smriti ji, Dr. Lal, and President Crow. This event marks not just the launch of PIERA, but the beginning of a journey, one driven by collaboration, innovation, and purpose. We are grateful for the presence of our distinguished guests, partners, faculty, and students who made this truly possible. Before moving on to the closing remarks, I would like to take a small moment to mark our gratitude to all those who made this morning truly special and possible. First and foremost, a heartfelt thank you to Smriti ji and Dr. Lal for giving us their valuable time. We know that your schedules are immensely busy, but you still took out time, came here and interacted and engaged with the students. We are grateful for that. Next, we would also like to extend our sincere gratitude to President Michael Crow and his entire President's office for the continued support and belief in student-led initiatives. Here at Arizona State University, we are empowered to have been provided with these resources and support to organize events of this scale completely through student-led initiatives. And also a fun little anecdote, I won't take too long, but then a lot of glitches and hurdles we faced, President Crow and his office was more than willing to accommodate us very last minute. You know, this is a launch, we are just beginning here, and this kind of support, it's truly remarkable to have been provided this by the university. Continuing on the same note, how can we forget Mr. Holly Singh and the entire ISSC team, which is the International Students and Scholars Center, Rosita, Daniel, Meenakshi ma'am, Bobby ma'am, I know she's also somewhere around. This logistically, as well as in a matter of fact, like the courage we have and the motivation we have, it is because of these people. Throughout in the last 1 month, they have been the backbone for all our work here, and a heartfelt thank you to all of you. A special note of gratitude also to the Consul General, Dr. K. Shrikar Reddy sir. Even though he couldn't be here with us today, he has been a constant source of encouragement and support. His dedication to empowering the Indian diaspora and fostering strong India-US relations has made a significant impact on the community here. Also, a huge shout out to Pete, Maria, and the entire Old Main team, as well as the Pacific staging team. Without you guys, this lovely venue wouldn't have been set up in this beautiful manner. Can we have a moment of appreciation for their team? Also, a huge shout out to Dr. Bansal sir. You have been a great source of inspiration for us throughout this 1 year. He's our club advisor, and without your advice, we wouldn't have reached this level. So thank you so much for all your support. Finally, to all the esteemed faculty staff we have with us here today, and my dear Sun Devils. Your presence today and your support you are showing us here by being present, engaging with us, and attending these events, we truly appreciate it. Your presence has brought life, energy, and enthusiasm to this event. And somewhere ultimately we believe this club is for you guys, right? We are here to support you. So we hope in the coming days, months, and years you make full use of this club. I won't take too long. Just to wrap up, I would like to quickly mention our vision again. We are a premier student organization that hopes to generate actionable intelligence towards formulation of policies pertaining to technology, economy, polity, business in the context of Bharat. A lot of big words, but what does it actually mean and what are we actually planning to do? Let me boil it down into 3 bullet points. Number 1, research. We hope to engage young, talented students who are here like myself and a lot of you in the audience as well. Come, join our team. Together, we will actually read up what the policies are and how we can make policies better, how we can give feedback to both the Indian government, to the university staff and faculty, to the United States, and facilitate this conversation, how we can develop more and more research opportunities connecting students. Because at the end, so many great ideas have been born in universities, just like ASU. Second, we hope to empower discussions where we allow free speech and open conversation of ideas to flow around, and discuss from multiple perspectives, not just one. AI might be a tech concept, but at the end, when it's implemented, it will also impact the medical field. It will also impact the law field. So it's important all these people converge together, share their diverse perspectives, and grow towards making policies which help map this out. Lastly, we plan on conducting seminars, workshops, and conferences, just like this one here, where we hope to get more dignitaries like Smriti ji and Dr. Lall out here to, engage with you guys, talk about policy, talk about their experience, and, answer all our questions. So hope you had a wonderful morning. We also have a group photo with a lunch to be followed. I hope, you all can join in. And at the end, a huge thank you from all of PIERA team. Just one more moment I would like to take. All the volunteers who are here, can you all just stand up and wave? I'll just quickly read out their names. We have Pooja Ganesan, Harjot Kaur, Harish, Adish, Shivendu, Hetal, Chinmay, Akanksh, Taskeen, Beena, Manaswini, Shiksha, Devansh, Adish, Prateek, Shreyans, Nandini, Vivek, and Aiden. Without you guys, it truly wouldn't have been possible. It's these guys who ran around, who sat, cut every single piece of paper you see stuck around, making the slides, going over the audio, every minutest things. So thank you so much for your support, guys. I would like to hand over the stage back to Mudit and Shiksha. Over to you, guys.
Thank you, Siddhesh. So I would love if all the students move in front of the old main for a group photo. We also have lunch in the Turquoise Ballroom in Memorial Union. So if you don't want to be at the group photo, feel free to grab lunch. It's delicious, I can tell you. Went for the sampling. Awesome. So let's get moving.